I'm thinking every chance to support the.
Okay. Yeah, we are waiting for Counselor Irwin, but I'll start giving my little spiel. Welcome everyone to this regular meeting of the City of Philomath City Council. Today is Monday, March 9th. It's currently 7:16 p.m. and I'm going to look at my gavel and consider calling the meeting to order right now. Welcome, Counselor Irwin. We'll start out with a roll call.
Jessica present. Diane Crocker.
Here.
Brent Caseman.
Present.
Irwin.
Here.
Christopher McMorrin.
Present. Wonderful. On tonight's agenda, we will start with a presentation of the 2024-25 audit report for the City of Philomath, followed by a public hearing on our stormwater SDC methodology. That's resolution 2605. We'll then have public comment and our consent agenda. In new business, we have Heritage Tree Program Committee appointments, a review of proposals for South 11th and 12th Street improvements, a discussion on a potential city services fee in relation to the city budget preparation, a discussion on the University of Oregon Sustainable City Year program opportunity, the discussion on the 14th Street property RFQ responses, and then a review of our strategic plan draft for the upcoming fiscal year. We then have two resolutions. We have Resolution 2606, proclaiming Arbor Day, and Resolution 2607, proclaiming Women's History Month, followed by our new dual reports. Information. We talked about it a little bit before we started, but I love all of us so much, and I think we're all so smart and have such great points. We also have a very packed agenda this evening, and spring break coming up. I think we would all prefer to not come back, but we'll do what we need to do. But just if we can all try to mutually agree to stay on task and get through this as quick as we can, that would be wonderful. So we'll start with our review of our audit report. I'll turn it over to Mike, and then we can go to Brad.
Okay. In front of you, you've got the financial report for June 30th, in 2025. And then you have, Brad, I gave him the single audit report also. I don't know if you want to go over any of that. But, overall, the audit, we came up with a clean opinion. We've got a couple of compliance issues, but we'll talk about those. Or ones we always have. So there's one that I'm going to talk to Brad offline, but I'll tell you about it. We keep getting hit with budget items. My actuals don't balance to the numbers that are in the budget. And what that's caused by is, because I put my GASB 34 entries in there, I'm going to go and remove all those. So I quit having this. The budgets that are they're not out of compliance, they just have an issue, are the SDCs and the LBE. I create those budgets those are built 1 year only. We don't even look back to the past. So I don't worry too much about it, but Brad, he has to report that. So I just want to let you know that's what the one of them. The other one is always the bank recs, and we don't have enough people to check everything. So anyway, for that, Brad, I'm going to let you go forward. Did you put another PowerPoint together?
Yes.
Brad? Okay, I'll try and kind of guide you where he is because I saw you all kind of trying to guess up where he was. So this one could be an extensive one. So this is cool. It's all yours, Brad.
Okay, we're giving you, there you go. You should be able to share your screen now. So take it off.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me tonight. Brad Bingenheimer, partner with Singer Lee Wack, and we once again had the pleasure of serving as the city's auditor for the year ended June 30, 2025. As basically you engage us as auditors to give an opinion on your financial statements. So we have issued what we consider to be an unmodified report, which essentially says, in our opinion, the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position and results of operations of the city for the year ended June 30, 2025. So, given some financial highlights. So, the first two pages of the financial statements are the government-wide statements, which present things in terms of the governmental activities and the business type activities. And looking at these, the governmental activities, you can see it had total assets at the end of the year of $25.4 million, which is a decrease from the prior year of basically almost $29 million. The deferred outflows of resources, those are items that relate directly to your participation in PERS and your other post-employment benefit plans that you offer. Total liabilities were had a decrease of about $500,000 in the year at $6.1 million. The deferred inflows of resources also primarily relate to accounting for those pension and other post-employment benefit plans. So overall, the net position of the city ended the year at $20 million, which compared to basically $23 million, so it had a $3 million increase in the governmental activities between the 2 years. Whereas your business type activities had kind of like the opposite. So its assets went up about $6 million. Deferred items didn't change much. The total liabilities decreased $200,000. So overall, you had the net position for your business type activities. They actually increased about $6 million into the year at $26.3 million. A little bit of the detail behind that comparison of the prior year. So looking at the government activities, your property taxes, of course, those grow every year. The other grant items, the big change here is that your grant revenue was down about $1 million from the prior year, which largely relates to your usage of certain grants like the state and local fiscal recovery fund grants. So its total revenues were about $1 million lower than they were before in the prior year. Your expenses were up slightly, $300,000 roughly, but then you had transfers from the governmental activities to those business type activities. So that's why, generally speaking, your governmental activities decreased about $3 million, while your business type activities increased 6.2. And part of that, of course, is also the fact that the business type activities, the total revenue was $3.8 million, where the expenses were $3.1 million. So looking at the funds, of course, the general fund is really the most important fund of the city because all the other funds have resources that are dedicated to specific purposes. So you don't have as much flexibility in how you use those. But the general fund ended the year with a general fund balance of $1.8 million, we'll call it. And that was a slight decrease of $78,000. Total revenues, 4.2. The expenditures were $4 million, and the general fund had transfer out of $338,000. So not a very big change. One of the things, though, we do like to point out is if you compare your general fund balance to your total expenditures as a percent, so your general fund balance represents 42% of your expenditures in the general fund. And that's what we consider a pretty healthy fund balance position to be in. Anything less than 20, we get really concerned about. Anything above 50, it's almost like, well, are you keeping more money than you really need to be? So right around this, just under 50%, that's a very good, strong position for your general fund balance to be in. So another thing, just as a financial highlight, this is a summary of the debt of the city. We were talking just a few minutes ago about the urban renewal debt. So you can see that's down right here in this governmental area. But then you have all these other debts. And the one I want to talk about, bring your attention to, is this net pension liability. In the governmental activities, that's $2.2 million. And then in the business activities, you have $660,000. So between those two, it's about roughly $2.9 million of net pension liability that appears as a liability on your financial statements. But I always like to refer to this is your liability, that's not your fault. It's solely due to your participation in Oregon PERS. Of course, this is your tiny little slice of the big Oregon PERS pie. But what's kind of most important, there is a schedule kind of in the middle of the report where there's a section entitled Required Supplementary Information. And this is a schedule out of that shows, basically your proportionate share of that net pension liability. So, as I said, it's $2.9 million currently. If you go back 10 years, though, it was only $950,000. So you can see this thing has just continued to grow over time. While your city's payroll has not even doubled over that same time period. So your liability keeps increasing, but the good news is when we look at the contribution rate that the city has been experiencing, back in 2016, basically you were paying into PERS $16.75 for every dollar of covered payroll. Well, you can see over the years that it's actually decreased a little bit. So currently you're paying $15.32 per, for the covered payroll. This is a really unusual trend for most local governments in Oregon. We've seen most local governments, this continues to increase. And some of them are all the way up to almost a 25% contribution rate. So this kind of makes you a little bit of an anomaly in the world of Oregon municipalities. So as I said, we also, in addition to our report on the financial statements, we also issue a report under the requirements of Oregon minimum standards. And yes, there were a couple of things that we noted. So the first one was in that very large budget document, there is on every single detail page on the left-hand side, there's two columns that are supposed to be actual amounts. And so because that is embodied actually in Oregon statute, that those columns need to be there, we performed tests to determine did they actually agree with the actual amounts from prior audit reports. And so it didn't. Now it's kind of like it's kind of a ticky-tacky little finding. We've talked to Mike, it's like we need to figure out a way to make sure that those numbers are correct. I've offered that if he wants, I'll be happy for us to give a once-over of your budget document before it ever goes to council so that we can see whether or not those things are all where they should be or not. Maybe we can avoid this in the future. But then in addition to that, there were two items that were overexpended during the year. These are pretty minor. The general fund city council was overexpended by $13,500. And in the land building equipment fund, the police department, that was overspent by $10,000. So very minor over expenditures. So this year we have a couple things that are different because as we've separately issued a federal compliance report. Well, in connection with that, we had to apply the standards of government auditing standards. So this is a whole nother set of auditing standards that are issued by the US government. And we issue a report on that. And that report talks about two things. First, it talks about internal controls. So as part of every audit, we obtain an understanding of the internal controls of the organization. That helps us plan the audit to, if there's some area that we think has higher risk because of weaker controls, kind of allows us to direct our attention to those a little bit. But in addition to that, if as part of our gaining an understanding, we identify any weaknesses, we bring them forth in a schedule attached to this report. And so that's, we talked about internal controls. And then it also talks very briefly about compliance with laws and regulations. So Oregon minimum standards requires us to, test certain laws and regulations. These standards go a little bit beyond that and basically say, consider any other laws and regulations that could have a material effect on the financial statements if you were in noncompliance. So we performed other tests, and we determined we did not identify any other instance of noncompliance that could have a material effect on the financial statements. Now, the one internal control finding, as Michael said when we started this section, there is the internal control over the review and approval of reconciliation of significant accounts, primarily the bank accounts. The bank account reconciliation is a crucial piece of internal controls. If that's not done right, you're always going to have other problems. So, it's not that anything has happened, but good practices would say that for good internal controls, one person would prepare the reconciliation and another person would review it and approve it. That's basically what we're saying here. So in addition to our report on the financial statements and the government auditing standards, we also have a report under the requirements of the uniform guidance for that cover the awards, the expenditures of federal awards. And so as part of this, we identify significant federal award programs, and we perform additional tests on those to determine two things. One, did you in fact comply with the requirements of the program? And two, do you have internal controls in place to ensure that you stay in compliance? So we performed those tests. We did not identify any instances of noncompliance, and we didn't identify any weaknesses in internal controls over compliance. So this is the schedule of federal awards. Obviously, the one we looked at was the coronavirus state and local physical recovery funds, where you expended $995,000 of federal awards this last year. So with that, I'd say I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Brad. We appreciate that. I just had one question. You talked about how we were sort of unique in our PERS contribution rate compared to other cities. Do you know why that would be?
I'm guessing it's partly related to the period when you entered into PERS and your contributions that have been made. As part of PERS, we rely on the audit reports from other auditors for this information. It's a very large firm that does the audit of PERS. And one of the things they do is they audit what's called your proportionate share of the net pension liability of PERS. And they had to do some changes here, but essentially what they're doing is they're projecting forward your future contribution percentages, contribution amounts, compared to all the other municipalities in the state of Oregon. And then they compare those all, your proportionate share. So you can see, let's see, it's not on, I guess I didn't include that here. Yeah, your proportionate share. So your share of that Oregon PERS pie is 0.013%. So a very small slice of that PERS pie. And the contribution rates, those are determined by the actuary. And so part of the actuarial studies, they are looking at your particular employee demographics, and based upon when they expect people to retire, how long they expect them to live after retirement, and that kind of thing, to develop what they believe should be the contribution. Now, this particular table does show that you are contributing every year exactly what you should be. There is no contribution deficiency or excess. So you're doing absolutely everything you should be doing.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
It's on page 46 and 47 if you want to look at it later.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. I just had one question for staff. On the internal control piece, it said you were examining opportunities to improve that.
Yeah, we're working on just finding the time to do it.
Yeah,
I can give them the time. I'm gonna give them a pile of paper that is thick. That's the bank.
Okay.
Think about it. Do we have time to go over it? Maybe.
Sometimes,
Sometime.
sometimes.
Right. Is the problem just that we don't have someone else doing
Pretty
it?
much, yeah.
Not additional for-
I'm religious about the bank
Yeah.
code. And, what Brad's saying is, if you don't pay attention to it, it could be problems, but we don't have a
Sure.
problem.
Okay.
It's something, it'd be nice to have somebody else to look at it. Maybe I have one of my staff, but
Right.
I don't have time. So have me another assistant or something like that.
With all of our money.
Yeah, here we go. It's like,
It's a sign.
the state's always asking us to do these reports for them and say, give me
Yeah.
some staff. So,
Okay. I guess can you just keep us posted on?
yeah, I do.
Thank you. All right. Anything else? All right. Then thank you very much, Brad. We appreciate your presentation and your firm's time in putting this all together.
Yeah, well, thank you. I do want to say thank you to city staff. When we come and do the audit, we are a huge disruption to their normal work that they staff keep doing. So we ask a bunch of annoying questions. We want to see a bunch of documents. So I do appreciate city staff and their willingness to help us in the overall audit process to make it as efficient as possible.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Mike, and your whole team and everyone at City
The
Hall.
whole city.
Yes. With that, is there a motion on this?
Somewhere.
I'll entertain it.
Big one.
Page one of one, according to that. Yes.
I move the city council to accept and approve the 2024-25 financial and related reports.
Is there a second? Okay. Been moved by Councilor Andrade, seconded by Councilor Caseman to accept and approve the 2024-25 financial and related reports. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, would all those in favor please raise your hand and say aye? Aye. That's accepted unanimously. All right, now I can really thank Brad. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Budget.
All right. Next up, we have a public hearing on our stormwater SDC methodology. So I'm going to open a public hearing on resolution 2605, which you can find in your packet with the addendum of all the details. Would Chris, or I think, was Kevin here at one point? Is he still here? Okay.
They come up.
Kevin, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Do you want to give us a quick rundown of the stormwater SDC changes?
Not really. I don't deal with I don't set the SDCs or do much with them. It's usually left to the city manager.
Okay, well then, Chris, would you? Sorry about that. That's my bad.
All right.
Thanks for being here, Kevin.
Just want to check on Kevin's status.
Yeah.
No, so I'll just give a quick staff report that we can open up for any public comment. As you read in the memo, so the trigger for updating SDC methodologies is after we've updated the master plan typically. So the stormwater master plan was updated a few years ago. When it got updated, we updated the list of capital projects that we foresee needing to construct over the next 20 years. Some of that is development driven. Some of that is just improvements that need to be made due to time, replacement, et cetera. And so once we have that project list in place, then we typically will hire a consultant, an engineering firm to help recalculate the SDC methodology. So what we're looking at tonight is that methodology. The methodology shift is essentially, rather than only having the cost for improvements, we also are giving the city credit for the existing stormwater system that's in place. So there's both now a reimbursement portion of the fee and a improvement portion of the fee. Both get collected at the same time, but there's limits on what those different fees can be used for. SDC improvement, of course, can only be used for improvements. So future improvements that were planned as future projects. SDC reimbursement can go, has to go towards those capital projects that are, well, go to pay for debt, or you can also use it for future projects. So they're a little more flexible. And then we also charge a 1% administration fee. There's tax on top for all of the work that goes into collecting and distributing. At the end of the memo, it talks about our current rate for SDCs. We're at just over 2,037. One of the changes that the Public Works Committee recommended that I really like was that we also moved away from paying SDCs based on the equivalent of how many dwelling units were there. Our current methodology says if you have a residential unit, we just assume that it's about 3,000 square feet of impervious surface. So that's your roof, your driveway, your walking area. All that's, we guesstimate 3,000 square foot. So regardless of how big your house actually is, we're considering it 3,000 square foot of impervious surface, and we charge you 1 SDC for storm. If you're a duplex, then we consider that you're 2 equivalent dwelling units worth of impervious surface, so we charge you 2 SDCs, and it goes on down the line. For commercial and industrial properties, we actually look at the total square footage of the property, and the engineers tell us how much of that total property is impervious surface. Typically your parking lot, your building, your sidewalks, everything else. And we charge an equivalent dwelling unit by taking that total amount, say it was a 9,000 square foot commercial property, and we divide that by 3,000, which is the 1 EDU, and we would come up with 3 equivalent dwelling units. So we would charge you the SDC rate times 3, because essentially 3 times bigger than a standard house of 3,000 square feet. The new SDC methodology takes I would say, a more specific route, where we've calculated the SDC rate by square footage. So regardless of whether you're a house, residential use, commercial use, or industrial use, we're going to change the same, charge the same rate. It's just under $1. I think we're 99 cents. Where'd it go? 98 cents?
989.
Yeah, 989. So 98.9 cents. I would say that. Per square foot. And so if you're a smaller home, say you've only got a 1,000 square foot footprint, including your small home and your single car driveway, we're only going to charge you the 1,000 times the 0.989. If you're in a larger home with a bigger footprint, maybe it's a 2,000 square foot footprint, and 2 stories plus the garage plus your driveway, then it's going to be 2,000 times the 0.989. So a bigger home is going to have a bigger impact on the impervious surface, bigger impact on stormwater, so we're going to charge more, twice as much, than a house that's half the size. And that ratio continues with commercial or industrial. If your industrial space is impervious surface is 10 times bigger than a 1,000 square foot home, then you're going to pay 10 times more than what you do for a 1,000 square foot home. So that's kind of the difference on the rates. I gave the example there. Some houses you'll actually pay a smaller SDC fee than what you're currently paying, but on most homes, your bigger homes, bigger commercial industrial, the rate's a little bit higher, to help pay for those future projects that are coming up. So the methodology is included as attachment to resolution 2605. The resolution is effective upon passage. Any building permits that have been submitted up to this point will stay. We're not going to go back and retroactively change them. But essentially, if this is passed tonight, then as of tomorrow, any new building permits that come in will calculate the storm SDCs based on this new methodology. There's a little bit of information about public notice that went out, and so we'll just suffice it to say we've given appropriate public notice. We don't have a list of interested parties that we have to give specific notice to, but we are required by state law to hold this public hearing, which we're doing now, following which the council can vote on the resolution. I'm happy to answer any questions now or in your deliberation.
Are there any questions now? Okay, I don't believe we have anyone here for the public hearing. Is that correct? Okay. Then I will close the public hearing and the council can deliberate, and I'll entertain a motion if there is one. Councilor Eastman?
I move to approve Resolution 26-05, adopting the Storm Drainage System Development Charge and Capital Improvement Plan.
There's a second. Okay, it's been moved by Councilor Pageman, seconded by Councilor Irwin to approve Resolution 2605. Is there any discussion on that motion? I'll just thank staff and the West Tex, I don't know, yeah, for doing this and echo the comments around. I really like the new method of calculating it based on square footage. I think that's better for a lot of reasons. So I'm glad we're making that change. Any further discussion? Seeing none, would all those in favor please raise your hand and say aye? Aye. Resolution 2605 is adopted unanimously. Thank you all very much. With that, we will move on to general public comments. I don't believe we have anyone registered who's not online, right? Yes. You'll see you got this letter from Van Hunsaker here distributed. Just want to make sure everyone sees that. I'll just say really quickly on this, I had talked to Chris and Spencer about just referring some of this to the Finance and Administration Committee, since it's sort of firmly in that arena, and I think we're planning to do that. I don't think we've scheduled that yet, but we'll get that on the books, because I think it seemed like the council was interested in looking into this, even if we can't do everything that's proposed. Am I reading the room right on that? Rousing chorus of yes. Perfect.
We discussed during the committee.
Yeah, okay. Sounds good. With no other public comment, we'll move on to our consent agenda with the minutes from the February 9th work session and regular meeting. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved by Councilor Andrade, seconded by Councilor Proctor to approve the consent agenda. Would all those in favor please raise your hand and say aye? Aye. Consent agenda is approved. Thank you all very much. We'll move on to new business, starting with our Heritage Tree Program appointments. We have two nominees for, I believe, two positions. So we have Jake Atkins and Sky Yeager. You can see their applications attached. I'm sure if there are any questions, we can answer them, but I'll also entertain a motion. Mr. Casey?
I move the City Council appoint Jake Atkins and Sky Yeager to serve on the Heritage Tree Program Committee for a 3-year term expiring on December 31st, 2028.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilor Caseman, seconded by Councilor Andrade to appoint Jake Atkins and Sky Yeager to the Heritage Tree Program Committee for a term expiring December 31st, 2028. Is there any discussion on that motion? As always, I will thank Jake and Sky for stepping up and volunteering for the city. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing your contributions to the Heritage Tree Program. With that, would all those in favor please raise your hand and say aye?
Aye.
Are those opposed, no?
No.
Oh, okay. The motion passes 4-1. Councilor Crocker, do you have anything you'd like to say?
No.
Okay. We'll move on. Next up, we have the 11th and 12th Street improvements. Maybe this is probably why Kevin's, there we go. Okay, my bad, Kevin. I picked on you earlier. So I'll just give a quick rundown of this because I think this came from the Public Works Committee, and since Councilor Salsa isn't here, this is something identified in the capital improvement plan to essentially continue some of the streetscapes energy onto the cross streets of 11th and 12th Street between Main Street and Applegate. And as part of that, the 12th Street project would include spending the electric vehicle charging grant that we received from the federal government to put in an EV charging station there on 12th Street. The engineer's estimate was much higher than what we had originally budgeted. So the Public Works Committee asked to have it split up into sort of two options, an option to just do 12th Street and then an option to add on 11th Street, just so we have a little more cost flexibility. So you'll see that reflected here. The good news is that the bids were a good bit below the engineer's estimate. So we're sort of going up and down. The engineer said it would cost more than we thought, and then the bids came in a little lower. So the bids are sort of in between what we thought it was going to cost and what the engineer's estimate was. So you can see there we have the bid of $630,848 for the two pieces. But Kevin, anything you want to share on that?
Other than we got really good pricing from the contractor on this, it was a surprise to the engineer, and actually a few of the contractors that called and talked to us were surprised at how low it is. The city engineer checked with Pacific X to make sure that they were still on board and were going to withdraw their bid or try to or anything else. And they said, yeah, they looking for the work early on and they're honoring that bid at that price. So I think earlier we had the price was or our original price was so low because I think we only had 12th Street figured in there, and then 11th Street was kind of added as a to finish kind of that one area off, which is why we were low last year. So that's I mean, it's a great price, and they're ready to go, and whenever we can get started, that'd be great.
And if we approve this tonight, is this construction that would happen this summer, or what's the timeline for this?
So we need to do a budget amendment because we didn't budget to spend this much money. We do have money in streets. We've got some street SDC money that's sitting there that we didn't budget to spend this year, but it is there to kind of carry over year to year for the next project. So when we looked at this with the Public Works Committee, there are funds there to do it, but we would need to amend the budget in order to spend this full amount this year. We could also, depend on how we work with the contractor, spend the money that we budgeted to spend this year before July, and we would put money in the budget for next year, like the SDC money we weren't planning to spend could be spent. So they could start on this sooner than July 1 if we wanted to split it between two fiscal seasons. So yeah, there's some options there.
Okay.
And we haven't looked at this, well, we looked at this pretty close with Mike. I think Mike's kind of open to either. Just know if we started like in May and got the whole thing done, we'd need to amend the budget for this year because we spent more than what we budgeted.
Yeah.
We're going to split into two projects. We do that. We'll just reflect that in the CIP for this year, this upcoming year.
Okay.
figure out, it's sometimes a little difficult for the contractor to figure out how much money we're actually spending this year
Yeah, sure.
and doing versus next, but it can be done.
Okay. My only real question, well, a question is just, a while back, we talked about the, OIB for them, drive to help reimburse some of the street funds. Is that still something
We'll tell that back to you next month.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
just because that will help kind of.
It was on the radar for tonight's meeting.
That's gotta be put back. It's been spent.
Oh,
There's no, you're not gonna make money out of it.
Yeah, there's debt there that we need to pay.
That's gotta be paid back.
That's good to know.
I mean, we've fronted that money, so we need to get that done.
So do we have an outstanding loan for that?
No,
No, so, I mean, that money will come back into the street fund, I think is what he's saying.
it will come back to, it'll come
Okay.
back somewhere, yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So, like, if we spend 600,000 on this, then we get 700,000 back on that.
It's gonna go over here. Your 600 is gonna come out of the SDCs that are current.
Right, I guess I'm just saying, like, 2 years from now, if both of those things happen, the
Yeah, there's just, I mean, a lot of times the LID, they'll set up a payment plan, and so we
Okay.
won't see that realized quickly. That could be
Right.
extended out over 10 to 15 years, 10 years typically.
But that money is still going to go into SDC reimbursement line item for the street fund. Is that right?
This one's gonna go into probably sewer, street, and water,
Okay,
probably.
but it'll go on to those line
A
items.
great portion of it will go back into street.
Yeah,
A large
okay,
portion will
okay.
go back into water. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not paying off an outstanding, like, external debt.
No.
Okay, cool.
And again, we'll look at that next month. It was on the radar for tonight and it just got too
Yeah.
much, so we punted on it one more month.
Okay. Sorry, I've been hogging the mic. Any other thoughts on this, Councilor Caseman?
Just a question, so just because it's so much lower, does that come with references or is there examples of completed work? I'm just unfamiliar with this company.
Yeah, we worked with Pacific X. They did they paved North and South 19th Street and did the ADA ramps on that last summer for Benton County. They also did Applegate Street from 21st to 30th on several years ago when that was done. Both water, sewer, and the street rebuild. So they're a well-known company, been around a long time.
I've worked with them before too.
Okay.
There's $170,000 lower.
Yeah, I'll take it, yeah. Okay, this is a tiny little question. For street lighting, it looks like the bid had all of the infrastructure to install a street light, but not the street lights. Is that gonna be an additional cost on top of this? And what's the plan there?
It'll be part of the street light district.
Okay, so that, we won't do that as part of this. We'll just have, okay. Cool. Any other questions on this?
That was an effort to keep this bid lower. right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
Just
okay.
include those lights on those two streets, the larger district,
Okay,
potential future district.
Councilor Crocker.
Do a motion.
Oh, please, yes.
I move the city council award the 2026 South 11th and South 12th Street improvement contract as recommended by the city manager.
Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved by Councilor Crocker, seconded by Councilor Andrade to award the 2026 South 11th and South 12th Street improvement contract as recommended by the city manager in this agenda item summary. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, would all those in favor please raise your hand and say aye? Aye. And that passes unanimously. Thank you all very much. I guess the last thing, thank you, Kevin. We appreciate it. The last thing, I'm just, as always, hoping we can keep the businesses on 11th and 12th Street very appraised of this if we're going to be shutting down their streets for a while this summer. Okay.
If I may on that too, the contractor's required to keep access for the businesses
Okay,
And we'll be working around them. The roads will be closed, but they'll be open to local access. We
okay,
discussed that. It'll be reiterated again at the pre-construction meeting.
okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Thanks for being here.
Mhm.
All right, next up, we have our discussion on the city services fee recommendation in relation to the city budget preparation. I'll turn this over to Chris and Mike.
Yeah, I'll kind of talk through it a little bit. So hopefully we had a chance to read through the memo. I don't want to cover it in great detail, but I'm happy to answer questions. But just in summary, we're really looking at our ending fund balance and what's continued to drop off year after year after year. That ending fund balance is valuable to the city because it's the cash on hand that we use to pay our bills between July 1st, when the fiscal year starts, and November, when the majority of property taxes start coming into the city. So for general fund purposes, we really need that ending fund balance to be substantial enough that we're not, going negative or going arrears, having to borrow from other funds. Get very creative on where that money's coming from. We need that ending fund balance is kind of reserve. And we call it different things because it serves multiple purposes. It's the unappropriated ending fund balance because unappropriate is not appropriated to a specific department or a specific expense. So it's unappropriated. It's the ending fund balance because where it's there at the end of the year. That's what you want to have left over to roll into the next year, right? And this is the reserve because we use it as that reserve to get us through it. Once that tax money does come in, if we do have an emergency, that's the cash on hand that we're going to. So it does serve as kind of that reserve fund for an emergency fund as well for us that can be utilized. Obviously, we'd still need to adjust the budget and do other things, emergency declarations, but we'd have cash on hand that we could do it as opposed to having to go out and borrow money, for a large expense, so to say. So that's really kind of the primary target that we're looking at with the city services fee that staff's recommend at this point. That is to help us start rebuilding that ending fund balance. We'd be really looking at, ending the ending fund balance. And I think I'm over to page 2 of 4. There's a public safety competitiveness that we're looking at in order to fully fund our police department. And then also stabilizing the general fund cash flow and appropriate balance. And there's a summary of both of those there. The rate that we're looking at, it's a little bit of rough math, but generally speaking, at $14 a month would bring in about $400,000 a year. That would take care of both of those targeted goals, right? So both public safety and ending fund balance, and be able to raise those back up. There's a little explanation here about fees over levies and pros and cons of a levy versus a fee. Staff's recommending that we do the fee. The council's got a lot more control over it, can be adjusted annually a little bit easier, or even throughout the year it can be adjusted as needed. Obviously by adjusted, it can come down if we get a year or two out and the city's doing well with cash and revenues, then the fee can come down with a pretty simple resolution. If we've got higher expenses and we're not keeping up with inflation, then it can be increased as well through the city council without having to prepare something to go out on the ballot and get the timing right and be kind of set to that schedule of when the election ballots go out. Let me take a drink of water. I've talked a little bit about implementation. Unfortunately, we don't have the luxury to have a 3 or 6 month debate about a city services fee and invite the public to come in and provide a testimony and then enter into our budgeting process. We need to know sooner than later if this is something that the council is willing to entertain. So my recommendation is that, again, rather than hold a separate hearing process about the fee, that we have the council direct staff to go and implement this fee into the budget for 26-27. And then we promote the 26-27 public hearings as an opportunity to give feedback, not only on the budget, but also the city services fee and its impact on the budget. I think that'll give the Budget Review Committee more of an opportunity to see how the fee is going to impact the budget. And maybe more importantly, what happens if you pull that revenue out of the budget, then you'll be able to very directly see where those cuts need to be made in order to make the city whole on the ending budget. So that's my recommendations for our implementation, is to give staff some direction. We're not asking you to approve the fee tonight. We're not asking you to approve the fee without any public input. Just the opposite. We're just saying, let's build it into the budget and open that up for public comment through our budget process, see what it looks like. And then after the budget gets approved, if it includes the revenue from the fees, then the city council could pass a resolution or an ordinance to get the fee in place. It'd be an ordinance to get it in place. If the Budget Review Committee has a different decision and a different alternative, or sees some other cuts they can make that would adjust a city services fee, then that could be identified during the Budget Review Committee process, and the city council could take appropriate action after the budget was approved. So those are kind of recommendations. The options are there, and I'm happy to answer specific questions the council might have.
Other questions for staff?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. I am in support of this because I see the need, but I want to not come back every year because I don't think it should be that, or make our budget by doing this. I think there's a need right now for it to be. I wouldn't be in favor of releasing it every year, you know.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Can I comment on that, just to maybe back up? That's definitely the intent, would be to get it in place and hold, right? So at that amount, it'll bring in $400,000. That will be able to put towards public safety and towards the ending fund balance. That will build the ending fund balance every year moving forward, as long as we continue to see what I would call modest to low inflation. And as staff continues to work and look at our transfers out of the general fund to support future projects and future endeavors, those can be adjusted. So there's some few other levers we can pull, but short of pulling the brakes and stopping any future projects or anything that the city's doing with general fund dollars and putting it all towards ending fund balance, we want to continue with the progress that we're making and some of the advances that we're making. We'll talk later tonight about the strategic plan and some of the items the council's wanting to do there. To keep moving forward, we have to continue to have funds to do that, and this will help put that money towards that ending fund balance at the same time. I don't anticipate that it's a fee that will go up. My anticipation, again, don't have a magic ball, but I can't imagine that inflation is going to continue to be at the peaks that we've seen. And again, not an economist, but just looking at history, which we have new world records all the time. But I don't anticipate this is going to be something that we're going to be looking to increase next year, the year after. We get 4 or 5 years out, we'll see, right? We're going to look at this year after year after year. And again, the nice part about the fee is the city council can make adjustments year after year after year. And I guess I'll just note real quick is when the city looked at our general fund fee that got passed years ago, we were in a little bit different situation, but the need was the same. We needed to increase the ending fund balance. So the city council at that time implemented an $8 a month general fund fee with the goal that it would be removed after 5 years. In fact, that was part of the deal, is they approved it for a 5-year period of time. By year 4, we were able to reduce that down from $8 to $5. Actually, by year 3, I believe we reduced it from 8 to 3, and we actually ended after the 4th year. We didn't even take the full 5th year to do it because revenues had come up. That was during the time that the apartments came on board, and we had other residential development around, and those increases were able to add enough to the general fund that we didn't need the general fund fee anymore. And as soon as the council could remove it, they did. We'd have the same type of control over the city services fee.
Let me add on to Chris's spiel there. On page 49, This is the reason why we're doing this. Between July 1st and 11/1 of each year, our cash flow is in a negative direction because we don't get our property taxes, which is our biggest revenue, until November 15th, 16th, something like that. So if you look at that particular schedule, I mean, our beginning fund balance, which that's the ending fund balance, page 49. That's, it looks good. It was built up back in 2021 because of the general fund fee. And we kept our revenue constant, the state share, the general fund, and the building permits. Those are constant, but the general, if you look at the expenditures, they stay pretty much the same size and they grow. So by the time July or August 1st, November 1st rolls around, we're running down to no money in the general fund. So that's why we want to build that back up. I'm projecting next year it's going to be 51,000 on November 1st. So I've got a payroll that's going to be on November 15th that I can't cover, or November 10th. So that's why we want to rebuild this. I mean, this is getting down into the nuts and bolts if you want to dig into it. But that's the reason why we're running. The cash flow is good. I mean, the end of the year, I'm going to have a good ending fund balance. Brad showed that. But, we look at cash flow during the first 5 months of the year. Our biggest revenue, what is that? We all know that's property tax. So that's why we need to get this thing situated and get it rebuilt. Any questions?
No, I'm not in.
No, excuse me, not a question. I understand that there's a need for this. I think that, or a need for funds. I guess I don't think now is the time. We're already, that we can't not increase utility rates. I think perhaps waiting until the water treatment plant has been built and a couple of years of those increased rates, and then maybe come back to visiting this. I do think there are some other alternative funds that we need to explore more, such as and it won't help in the short term, but in the long term, it'll help stabilize, because from what I understand, we don't want to rely on a fee for the rest of, in perpetuity, to fund these things, or to catch up. And I'm concerned that that might end up happening if we're using it for a particular reason. Like for the public safety part of the needs that the fee would address. And so an alternative funding situation for that would be reevaluating the time, place, manner restrictions to be able to allow additional cannabis taxes to be able to be put towards the police department. And in theory, that should help rather than just relying on people. So yeah, I would like to hear what the community thinks, as always. But I don't think it's a good idea right now to not listening to them, but the part about just in having it.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Other comments or discussion? Yeah.
It's something we don't ever want to do.
I know, I have very mixed feelings about this whole thing.
I do have something if
It's great.
you're looking for
Anyone, yeah,
meeting.
that's wonderful.
I mean, I agree that this is maybe the least opportune time to add a fee or to want to add fees, um, and so I'm pretty hesitant and agree with Counselor Andrade that it would be good to hold on. And even more so agree with the idea of, exploring other revenue streams. I do also feel like a sense of responsibility that we stabilize things as quick as possible so that we experience less time of whatever the consequences of being underfunded end up being, like shorten the duration of the impact of budgeting shortfalls. And so I have a pretty conflicted opinion going on right now. I hate to add a fee, especially on top of having to stabilize the utility and all that. But I also, if we're not cash flowing, like that's a significant problem. Like we have to pay people, and I understand that there's ways that you can make that work, but that's not like principally sound to like have to rely on doing extra stuff to make sure that we can pay. And so I guess I would be reluctantly for adding the fee for the sake of doing the hard and right thing as soon as possible, but it's definitely with reluctance.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
It's too concise. Feeling.
Doing good work tonight.
Mayor,
Yes, please.
I did fail to reference the attachments. I appreciate Mike talking about the first one. I was turning to the council still get to the second attachment, which is the results of a citywide survey that went out collecting on other cities that have either a police fee, a public safety fee, which includes police and fire, a city services fee, parks, street. And there were other columns here that aren't included, like sidewalks and urban canopy and others that were less common. These were the most common fees that were there. So that information has been provided for the council, and unfortunately, as the memo kind of began, this isn't that we don't have enough money. This is really a structural issue that Measure 5 and Measure 50 have put on cities where we're capped at no more than 3% of assessed value collection of property taxes, but yet our expenses, as we've been talking about all night, our expenses are going up, whether that be health insurance or PERS costs or construction costs or whatever it might be. On the general fund, we're looking at those costs going up, and unfortunately, as we can see by the table here, the chart, this has become an additional revenue stream that cities are reliant upon. This isn't let's put this in there for a few years and see what happens. This is the additional revenue stream that cities have grown to lean on. The average, if you look on the back of page 2, that the chart with the blue lines kind of continues to the next page. But the average cost of all those fees added up is $17.53 per household or equivalent household. And obviously we see our friends next door, Corvallis leading the way in second place at $58.66. Jacksonville at $79, and then working your way West Lynn, Tualatin, Medford, Hillsborough, Crestwell, Oregon City, Ashland, all the way down. So, relative to where other cities are at and what their experiencing, this fee still keeps us below the average of what other cities are having to do. It puts us in either good company or bad company, depending on how you want to look at it. But again, in looking at all the revenue sources that are out there and the additional ways that we can get funding and revenue into the city, this is one that cities are having to turn to, which is why the city is looking at it now. I'm grateful that we had a nice ending fund balance over the last 2 or 3 years that we could dig into. But as Mike shown in the previous table, that luxury is kind of going away pretty soon. and we've got to find additional ways for revenue, or we've got to substantially cut costs, which means stop providing some of the services that we're doing, stop some of the actions that we're doing. So again, the pitch is, rather than the council make those significant cuts at this point to be able to get that ending fund balance where we need it, to run this through the budget committee and at the budget review committee process to look at the full budget and have those conversations at that time and look for things that could be cut out to reduce this fee down or to eliminate it altogether. We are looking at some sort of a city services fee of some sort in order to help with our police department. So it's really about how much of the city services fee do we want to increase in order to cover that ending fund balance. Either way, the city council really does need to look at this as part of the budget. So it's a matter of how much of this do we build into the budget versus how much do we just say we're not going to do now. We'll find other ways, we'll cut other programs, and we'll take care of that through the budget process. And I don't ever mean to put the council between a rock and a hard place where you just have impossible decisions to make. I'm just trying to make you know that, again, you're in good or bad company. This is what's happening in Oregon because of the way that our tax structure is set up. And we can lobby our senators and our representatives about tax structure. It is something that the legislature looks at every year, and it's just a matter of getting the right bill in place and the right momentum behind updating Oregon's property tax structure, which is kind of just not been a real popular rock to pick up, mountain to pick up. So
At least we're not Jacksonville at $35 share.
I think you said it, but just to restate it, and Mike, you said it, so with your projections, there's a payroll on November 15th that you couldn't meet. So is it truly as simple as either we do this or we cut something?
Right.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that was clear. Yeah.
Shift around or.
Right, so we'd either have to do this or cut or shift something, so.
and we would find things to go without, right? But again, that cuts into our strategic planning and our vision we want to do and things that we're moving forward, the progress that we're making and making the Philomath a great place to be where everybody wants to come and live, right? And then we're going to pause a lot of that because we're building up ending fund balance over the next, several years without. But I get it. Nobody wants to increase fees, and not that it's a joking time to have it, but I've said a couple of times, nobody at the grocery store asked me if it was okay if they raised the cost of milk and eggs and everything else. They just did it, right? Because the cost went up. And so what we're seeing is our costs have gone up and some of our fees in order to keep us running and providing the services that we're providing have got to go up. And I don't see the ending fund balance as like this luxury, right? It's not like this rainy day fund that we're building right now when it's raining. This is really this is money that we need every year to get us through until property taxes come in. So it's not like this rainy day luxury reserve account that's just nice to have. It is an essential part of our budget that we're in jeopardy of losing. So again, I'm putting you in a little bit of a hard, in a tough position, but we can go either way, right? We can make some cuts. We definitely can make cuts. Find that when you look at money going forward, the transfers out of the general fund, we can substantially cut those back. We've already cut those back in order to keep any fund balance from dropping even quicker. We used to put $450,000 from the general fund into the sewer landfill equipment line. So we had $450,000 every year coming into the sewer landfill equipment fund for sewer projects. Last year that got cut down to $150,000 because that's what we could afford to transfer out of the general fund into sewer. Water similarly came down, right? So we can reduce that even further, right? That's $150,000 if we don't make any transfer into sewer. That's $150,000, so that means a portion of that fee we wouldn't have to do, but it also means we don't have money coming in on sewer on that transfer, right? We're fully reliant upon those sewer fees generated from the same customers to be able to pay for that, to do those projects that are needed. So it will catch up to us quickly, I guess, is what I'm saying, if we're not doing those transfers, so we have money to do those capital projects. But I also, like I said, I don't think that, I'm giving you impossible scenarios. I also don't know this inflation's gonna keep on forever. In a few years, we may be in a better spot, right? In 3 to 5 years, the legislature might change measures 5 and measure 50s and allow for rates to go up or get recalculated differently, and that might help with property tax revenue coming in. The urban growth boundary or the urban renewal district is gonna go away, that we shift some money in there, right? So I'm not saying this is for now and forever, this is what it's gonna be, but what I'm saying is for at least the next few years, this looks like this would really be necessary to help us get through it.
Councilor Caseman?
And just one more thought on that. So what we're doing here is just giving staff to put it into the budget,
Yep.
which puts it onto the table so we can discuss. The public can still have input, and maybe that's their moment to suggest a cut here or there. So I don't know if you're entertaining motions, but I would like it to be on the budget for discussion.
I'm always entertaining motion.
Always. Okay. So I move to, am I reading correct?
Yep.
I move to direct staff to draft the fiscal year 2026, 2027 budget with the inclusion of a $14 per month per household fee, and prepare an ordinance establishing the $14 city services fee should the budget review committee approve the budget as prepared.
Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved by Councilor Caseman, seconded by Councilor Crocker to direct staff to draft the 2026-2027 budget with the inclusion of a $14 per month per household fee and prepare an ordinance establishing the $14 city services fee should the budget review committee approve the budget as prepared.
That was it.
Councilor Andrade.
I'll just say one thing, anticipating that this will be going to the budget committee for discussion. That I hope that we keep in mind, that like, yes, everyone is facing really difficult times right now, this like financially as well as like in many other, there's just so much going on. And also, I know that it's kind of, it seems like it can be that like, okay, well, I guess we're gonna have to pull this project looking at towards the future, trying to bring in new people, new businesses, new just and stuff. But I think there is a way that we can find that balance of not putting the burden on the people who are already here. Like speaking as a renter, like rent is going up so much, and like I'm concerned that we might be, even though we might be getting new people into the community, we might be also losing the people who are in this community. And so just to, like, I know $14 a month doesn't seem like much to a lot of people or in certain contexts with like the budget and stuff, but I just really would like to like hope that we can think creatively about this, because clearly it is a need, at least for the like, you know, anyway. Yeah. And to clarify, I didn't mean to suggest that you were doing that.
No,
I
not
just
at all.
wanted to.
When the general fund fee was passed by the city council, we did put in a provision that if you were getting the low household income rate for water, then we also did a lower rate. We either dismissed or we did a lower rate on the fee as well. So I don't know that we need to change the motion, but it's definitely something we can bake that in. We can take a look at what are the numbers of households right now that are doing that, deduct that out when we're building the budget so we know what to expect. And that could obviously be that would be included in a future ordinance. So I mean, that helps with your low income households. Because we know that it's there, right? But in the same way, we also know there's very affluent people that live in Philomath that, you know, $15 a month is a couple of coffees, you know, and so I don't want to minimize it, but for some people it is fairly minimal, especially when they're looking at other inflationary costs that they're experiencing right now. But no, I appreciate that. So again, I don't think we need a motion, but Mike, are you good kind of baking in a little bit on the revenue side, just in anticipation? I don't want to be every household will take off a
Yeah,
little
we can do
percentage
that.
for low income households.
Yeah.
That can do that.
I'd love to do that anyway.
On that note, I was curious, just there were some that had varying fees for single family and two family. How are we planning to tackle that? It does feel weird for like The Boulevard Apartments is one estimate.
Yeah, we did it per year.
Okay,
That's per year.
Right, we've got.
but no differential rate between.
They're passing that along, assumption,
They'll charge them this whole thing.
right?
Right. Well, any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, would all those in favor please raise your hand and say aye?
Aye.
All those opposed, nay? Nay. The motion passes 3-2. Thank you very much. Next, we will move on to the University of Oregon's Sustainable City Year program. I just have to say, before we get into this, I loved seeing this in here. I just had a meeting with him. Okay, and apparently you independently did too. So this is great because I didn't even have to do any work. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chris.
Yeah, so this is a great program. Again, hopefully you read through the memo. They've been doing this for several years. They pick anywhere from 6 to 10 cities. It's usually more like 8 or so cities that they partner with. Their main theme is they want it to provide benefit to the community, right? This isn't about give our students an opportunity at your detriment, right? This is all about provide benefit to the community and at the same time, provide benefit to our students and our faculty. So they've been doing this a number of years. They've got it down pretty good. However, they're very interested in new ideas, new projects that need done, et cetera, et cetera. So what I'm looking at for this project, and I don't remember if I put this in there specifically, but what I'm looking at this project is one of the priorities that the council had talked about during strategic planning was a concept that came from the park board, was to look at our 3 big community parks and come up with like a long-term plan for those big parks. So that we're not just adding a bench here and there and add some playground equipment and whatever, but that we have a kind of a master plan for the parks themselves and how they're gonna grow and what they're gonna develop into over the next 20 years. To pay for a consultant to come and do just that work alone, we're probably looking in the, I think I put in there $70,000 to $90,000 range. To have them come and do that. This program with U of O, they would charge us roughly $50,000 to $60,000 a year. It's about $5,000 I put in there. It's about $5,000 to $10,000 per project they take on, depending on how many employee and faculty would be involved. But they would essentially do that as one of their like 5 or 6 projects for us, for that like $5,000 to $10,000 price tag between students and faculty to do that project. And then we'd still get another 3 or 4 projects out of them that year doing other things for us. So I had pretty simply kind of justified it that way and like, hey, we could spend $60,000 for a professional consultant to do it and only that, or we could pay $50,000 for U of O students and faculty to come and do it and do 4 other projects. Sounds like a bit of a no-brainer, but you're still having to spend that $50,000, right? So it's whether we want to move forward with that or not. This is why this is coming after the previous discussion, because this is one of those things where I feel like we've got momentum, we've got some things we want to do, but we don't have to do these things, right? We can not do any of this and save $50,000 a year for the next 2 years. So that's why it's in here. That's why it's coming after the last discussion, because I recognize there's an expense. I did target, as you'll see, even the first 4 items that I pitched were ideas that are right out of the strategic plan of things that we're looking to do. And then I followed up in the rest of the draft on a second email that went to the team that's working on this. These are all additional things. Another 13 items came right out of the strategic plan. Obviously, these weren't all priorities for this year, but they're all set as objectives within the strategic plan to do within the next 5 years. And what my vision for how this would happen was we would get an agreement from the city council to move forward with this or to not. If you agree to move forward with this, staff will work with them on helping develop a kind of a shorter list of projects that they feel like they've got faculty and capability to do. Faculty as in the actual people, like professors and their students that can line up with some of the projects we want to do. We'll bring that back to the city council for final approval of projects. And so you'll still have a lot of input into which projects we select. Right now, they're trying to narrow down which cities they're gonna partner with, and if we wait till April, we may be out of the list just because other cities have jumped in already. So I'm trying to stay in the door and stay in play if the council wants to be there. If you don't want to do this, we vote no on it, and I'll just tell them, not the year, not the time, maybe in a future year. But if you're interested, we've got a good foot in the door. They're excited about a lot of the projects we've talked about. They're ready to move forward and start selecting and narrowing projects before students and faculty leave for summer, so that when they come back in the fall, we've got projects, scopes, contracts, and they're ready to hit the ground running. So that's the pitch. Happy to answer any questions. Again, I provided quite a bit of information about the program itself, but happy to answer any specific questions you've got on the project.
Thank
Program.
you very much. Any questions? Councilor Casey?
Maybe just a comment. What did my eyes just say? It's like, what do I want to say at it? Then I didn't say anything now. I can't stop
I
talking.
look at you.
See what y'all do.
And I haven't been saying much, you know.
Why don't so it's more of just comment. So, and like you said, Chris, this kind of follows after that. So in one way, I could see how this sounds where we're having to implement a fee and then something like this, which sounds more discretionary. Totally get that. There's also the element of, you know, we rolled out Philomath 2050 that we want to move things forward. So there's all these kind of weird dynamics. So there's probably no perfect answer to this. So I'm just kind of, this is my own commentary. It feels weird to do this, but at the same time, I don't think we want to say, let's just, no, we're not doing anything.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of the dynamic that maybe we're all feeling individually.
I'll just say on that note, since I did individually reach out to these people, I totally agree with that. I think that I view it a little bit differently, just in that, sure, is this sort of a discretionary cost, I suppose, but it is a cost that we have almost every year. Like, I can't remember the last time we didn't hire a consultant to do some project, you know, like it is a sort of an annual cost where we usually are working on some plan or some design or some proposal that we've hired a consultant to work with. And I viewed this more as a cost saving measure of, if we generally have consultants working on plans and projects for us, I think it save money by having this program do some of that planning rather than some of the professional consultants, with the understanding that they're not professional consultants, that they are students with guidance of faculty. But just keeping that in mind.
To be clear, I agree with
Okay,
that.
yeah.
This is more of,
Just
or not the word optics. I just want to, I could see someone looking at this and saying, raising a fee and now this.
Right.
So I kind of just wanted to open that up, and
Right.
you said, I agree with what you said.
Right, yeah, and I guess I view it as like, as someone who just voted no, of like, this is an option of something we can kind of cut almost out of the budget of, instead of paying $90,000 for a consultant, now we can pay $40,000 or $50,000 for someone who can do more, but yeah.
I have two things. One, can we do less projects to spend less money, or are we locked into a certain number? Like, I assume they want a certain level of commitment just so that it's viable, right?
Yeah, because they do limit the number of cities that they're working with, and so, yeah, they want to be a good experience for the city and for the students. So we're kind of at the low end, and we really talked about a 2-year program with them for that very reason. So rather than like $120,000 in a year, let's do that same number of projects over a couple of years, over a couple of budget years. And also we can stay a little more focused on those 4 or 5 projects that we want to pick. But it could also be, well, 4 is probably kind of the minimum per year that they were comfortable with. But I'm thinking about 4 to 6, depending on how complex the projects are. But yeah, even at the 4 to 6 is probably about right for a city our size. Much larger cities like Salem, they'll take on 20 projects in a year, right? Because they have so many different departments. Each department does 1 or 2, they're set. That's what we would be. Each department would be doing 1 or 2 of these and we'd be set, right? So I think this number's good. 4 to 6 per year, yeah.
And then along the same lines that other counselors have shared, this might feel like a slightly weird analogy, but I almost think about these planned improvements as a marketing plan that goes with a business or a small business. Is if for better or worse, our economy is based on growth, and if we don't have managed growth in Philomath, we're gonna continue to lose revenue and things will get worse. And so while it feels sort of discretionary and like fun projects, if Philomath isn't a nice place to live, right? Like we have to continue to make improvement and be desirable. And I think that we've got between between the 2050 visioning, and, completing the downtown cityscapes and maybe some other improvements out of the urban renewal district puts us in a pretty special position. And we got a lot going, and I think having a low-cost, flexible way to plan those without, I always laugh about, I feel like we pay a consultant for all these things, and I'm considering becoming a consultant because it seems like a good opera. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of things. Obviously, not one that would consult with the woman, but just to be clear about that for the public. But so,
Just Corvallis.
yeah, just neighboring cities. But so, yeah, I mean, I just like to differentiate because I think I am in favor of the plan, but it does feel a little strange after the previous conversation where we said we can't afford things. So,
So we have a great reputation in Philomath for getting stuff done. I think we've got a lot of momentum right now. I mean, we're well respected in the state. We've got a great mayor, we've got a great council working together. You've got longevity in the city manager. I don't know about expertise, but you got longevity, right? But there's a lot of good stuff going on in Philomath right now, and it's because we're very active, right? I mean, we are very proactive on stuff. I drive my staff crazy at times, like another thing, another project, right? And they pull up their sleeves and they hike up their running shorts and they run with me, right? And we do it. So it's a good reputation to have, but there's a cost that comes with that, right? But there's also a benefit that comes with it. And that, again, we're a destination city. People want to move to Philomath. They want to be here. They want to stay here. They want to raise their kids here. They want to, go to downtown and have a place to eat. So we all know the benefits of being in Philomath. That doesn't come about by sitting on our hands and not spending money and planning for the future, right? We're a better place because we've been so proactive over the last several years. And that's not even, I'm not taking any credit for that. That's not my time. That's even before me. There were very proactive decisions that were made, and the city took many instances to be proactive and to get to where we are intentionally. And you do have to spend some money to keep that going. And I do see this, as the mayor voiced, I see us saving money by using students and faculty at U of O to do this work, rather than what it would be literally for your staff to take the time to do it, or for us to hire consultants to come in and do some of this work. So, and that's not every project, but again, for the little bit of extra money for the extra project for $5,000 to get another project done, I think it's great. So
I just realized maybe I should recuse myself from this.
Why?
I work for the Coalition of Oregon Public Universities. I hadn't thought about that. I don't technically work for U of O, but U of O pays dues to the coalition.
Yeah, that's probably an actual conflict of interest.
Okay. I'm gonna head out. I have an actual conflict of interest. The council
You
president.
want to leave.
The council president is here, so who wants to preside? You're the most senior counselor here. Well, Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, man.
Sorry about that. I should have thought about that earlier.
It's this new job. We're still getting used to it.
I have another maybe statement in favor. A statement in favor is the other thing that I think is neat about this is that it's an opportunity to get kind of younger, cutting edge input on civic projects in general, right? Like these are the people that are going to be implementing civics and presumably around the world, because you have a pretty rich demographic of students. And so I think it's kind of a win-win all the way around. It's cheaper. We already use lots of consultants and whatnot. And so, yeah, we get a new fresh input and yeah, and it goes along with what we're trying to do. But now I think there's probably kind of a consensus is formed anyway. And so now we're just wasting time.
Well, yeah, I'll just
You know, I'm
agree with you, like, well, pretty much with what everyone said, but especially in terms of like accessibility, they're gonna know the like more the
To date.
thank you words. Um, Counselor Crocker, did you want to?
I just wanted to make a motion.
Perfect.
I move to pursue participating in the University of Oregon Sustainable Year Program for the next 2 years and direct staff to work with the program leaders on finalizing a list of projects to take on during the first year.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
a second.
Thank you. That was a motion by Counselor Crocker, seconded by Counselor Irwin. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That would be unanimous. Mary, you can come back in. Like I'm saying this, right?
Crushed it, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah. You do that.
Input.
Or maybe.
Did you drop the gavel? Actually, oh, you probably should.
Unanimous. Yes.
There you know.
Appreciate that.
What?
Unanimous.
We were unanimous.
Okay. Thank you everyone for bearing with me on that. I apologize. I didn't think of that beforehand. It's new to me too.
Councilor Andrade did a great job.
Good. Madam Acting Mayor.
Yeah.
I think for the sake of ethics, like, that, I think we will pretty confident regardless.
Okay, yeah.
Of
that's
your
fair. I
input.
didn't- Yeah, yeah. I didn't
Put
love
that on the record.
Okay. With that, we'll move on to the 14th Street property RFQ responses. And just for the sake of time, I'm going to just preface this by saying that all that we need to decide on tonight is just if we want to invite staff to, we want to direct staff to invite the applicants to come speak to us at a future meeting. So I'm happy to talk a little bit about the things if people have thoughts, but we're not deciding on what we're building on 14th Street tonight. So,
Make a motion.
yes.
The other thing I read is that the Housing and Economic Development Committee
Yes.
is having a meeting tomorrow night. And we're going to be looking at both of these proposals and helping generate ideas, questions, thoughts that'll be passed on to you prior to April's meeting with both of these firms, if that's something that you're interested in. So you'll have a little bit of help from that committee generating some ideas, questions, whatnot.
Perfect. I saw a hand.
Since you always entertain motions.
I always do.
Who said, check the tape, he said. I move to direct staff to invite Hamlin Development and Jamestown Development to attend the April 13th, 2026 City Council meeting for interviews regarding the redevelopment of the city-owned property located at 1348 Main Street.
I'll second that. Look at that. Look at that. I can do that too. Okay, it's been moved by Councilor Caseman, seconded by Mayor McMorrin to direct staff to invite Hamlin Development and Jamestown Development to attend the April 13th, 2026 City Council meeting for interviews regarding the redevelopment of the city-owned property located at 1348 Main Street. I didn't go quite as fast that time. I'll just say really quick before we vote, I was just really happy that we got two pretty decent applications, one for housing, one for hotel. I won't lie to you, I was skeptical. I probably shouldn't say that on the record. I just not skeptical because I think it's not a great idea. This is all very new to me. I've never been a part of this before, so I really love seeing that folks saw the RFQ and responded, and it seemed like there was some real energy there. So I agree that I think it's an excellent project. They are correct in wanting to pursue it. With that, unless if there's any further discussion, then would all those in favor? Oh, yeah, sorry. Please.
Just real quick, it actually probably doesn't matter a ton, but do we foresee any other potential responses? And then would this affect that if there was?
No, it's closed.
It's
closed.
So these are the two that.
Yeah, well then, let's talk to them.
Yeah.
My bad.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, with that, all those in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Sorry, I didn't mean to just completely brush over that. I am very excited about it. But with that,
Decision to talk to them.
yes. Okay. Next, we have our strategic plan priorities for 2026, 2027. If you look at page 69, that is where the city manager has presented a draft option of sort of the top priorities that we can put on our one pager for the year. So I think that's really the focus for tonight is just, does this look good? Does this reflect what we talked about in our previous work sessions? Or are there any changes that councilors would like to see to these top priorities before we move forward? And then obviously there's the rest of the strategic plan with action items and everything added there. I think maybe just for the sake of time, it'd be best not to go through that super in depth. If folks want to go through that, we could maybe do a quick work session before the April meeting or something, just to kind of talk about that. But
I don't know what we're saying.
oh, so
Yeah,
these,
talk about this.
no, so these, well, I'm just saying for the sake of time, I think this is probably what we want to focus the conversation on.
Yeah.
If people have thoughts on the whole rest of the strategic plan, say
That's what I'm
things for,
saying.
but just because I know we're a thoughtful group. So with that, Chris, I don't know if you have any quick comments just on this or if we should dive into it.
A lot of these, as you'll recall, you selected the objective and they'd have like one or two action items under it. As they'll kind of roll the action items up into the explanation to the public. On the last one specifically, we didn't have a consensus around action items on that topic, so it's feels a little more like, what does that mean? So I'd be happy to get some input on that last bullet point to identify priorities infrastructure needs relative to emergency preparedness. If there's a better way to say that or more specific projects that would do that, that might be helpful for the public to have an understanding what we're talking about here. And you can turn to the strategic plan towards the back, theme 4, and you can see that objective and the action items there. So that might be something quick we can look at now, but again, I'm happy to take input on any kind of the more public facing descriptions of what it.
Councilor Jardine?
Well, just two thoughts. I would argue that the bullet point above that also doesn't really have any like say in how to do it. And so I don't know if it would be worth like tying that to the city service fee in there, because I think that's the main thing that we have for that goal. And then the other thing was for the emergency preparedness. Perhaps it's as it starts as simple as like creating not a database, but like, I don't know, something to kind of keep track of different needs that we realize we have and just kind of adding to it. At least that was kind of what I had in mind when I've talked about it before of like, let's build out our needs of places that are maybe unsafe or could be improved upon for emergency preparedness or something. And then develop a plan to either prioritize them or how to, I don't know, resolve them in a way to make it safer. I have no idea how to word that, but I also don't know if that captures what others had in mind.
Yeah, I think I would agree that I think that's a good opportunity. I think the action items also under that objective. Uh, Kind of the problem is that I would like to put effort into whichever one is going to be most efficient or effective, like wherever we're going to get kind of the most bang for our buck. So I'm hesitant to pick one of those to bring forward, but any of those would be worthy, right? Like interagency connectedness or, right? Because there is action items under essentially that statement, or am I looking at the wrong thing?
No, it's the, I just, again, we didn't have real clear consensus on which of those.
Well, yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying is I would like any of those to happen if there was a good opportunity for.
I'm fairly, I mean, I've got history on the North 11th, 12th Street fire lane. That's one that there's some wetlands there and some other hoops that we've got to jump through to make that happen, but that's something that I could commit to taking on this year and focusing in on this year. I think the permanent fuel supply tank, that's gonna take some money, so I don't know, it's something I would want to come to, because it may take a while to find the appropriate grant, get some money set aside, partner with the fire district. I mean, there's some more things to do with that one.
Just bringing back the idea of getting a generator and having one of us do it and build a whole tank. But I don't know how much a generator costs.
We probably need a grant for it, so.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
okay, on the 11th, 12th Street fire lane, and then if we can, obviously if we can do additional things, we do, but I don't want to commit to something to the public, right?
I like that, and then maybe just a line similar to like pursue opportunities to engage other projects or something like that, like.
Yeah.
Like do your grant finding magic and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'll just say I'm very on board for the fire lane between North 11th and 12th Street for two reasons. The first being, when I was the fire district liaison, that was one of the first things they asked me about was, hey, when are you finally going to do that? So it'd be great if now the new fire district liaison
Got
could
it
say,
done.
surprise, yeah, put me in for 2 months and we got it done. And even before I was the fire district liaison, I think when I was like on council, I just was looking at Google Maps, and it really irked me how there's no way to get between 11th Street and 12th Street. Like just if you're like a kid on your bike or you're a kid trying to get to the park. And so I think this serves as a fire lane, but also is a good just sort of connectivity point for people in the neighborhood, because if you live at the very tippy top of North 12th Street and you want to get to 11th Street or you want to get to the park, you have to go all the way down to Pioneer over and then all the way back up, which especially on streets that don't have sidewalks on both sides, and it's just not a safe thing for kids. And I mean, I think a kid was hit on 12th Street or almost hit or last year. So it is a real thing, and obviously this won't solve everything, but I would love to see that on there for this year.
Sounds good.
So sorry not to get on my little soapbox.
Some stuff. I was going to when you did.
You have something?
I do. Is this an order of priority?
No.
No,
Okay, 'cause
big
I-
one through two.
The healthy economy thing, while it looks, it's nice, I think traffic safety and good governance is more important.
Yeah, no, this
in my
is just,
opinion. Okay,
yeah.
and then the transfer ownership of South 19th from Benton County that's kind of important to me again, because
Yeah.
it's not got sidewalks, it's not safe, it's a mess.
South 19th has sidewalk.
Isn't that, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
South
yeah.
19th.
I was thinking
You're talking about-
13th.
Oh, yes.
I'm so
Okay.
sorry.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. Yes.
Yeah, the South 19th, that was a conversation I started with the county commissioners. Just it came about when the county repaved that, because part of our like school circulation study, and I'm assuming, not to predetermine anything, the TSAP that's happening right now keeps identifying like Applegate and 19th and sort of other South 19th issues but because it's a county-owned road right now, we can't make any changes on it without the county, and there's different regulations and everything. And so if we're able to transfer ownership of that to the city, then the city will own Applegate and 19th, and any future actions are just up to us, which streamlines things a little bit. So, yeah. And just from a sort of like nitpicky standpoint, there's no reason that should be a county road. Like, it is already completely up to city standards with sidewalks on both sides and storm drains and bike lanes and everything. Usually the reason a road is a county road still, like on South 13th, is if it doesn't have sidewalks or doesn't have storm drains or it's not up to city standards. So I think it's just sort of an artifact that still is owned by the county. It's about time to move it over to the city, but yeah. I had just a couple other things. The first, I'm wondering on the improve Main Street in the commercial districts bullet point, the third bullet point on theme 2, if we could strike artistic silhouettes to the railings and just put public art. Not that I don't like artistic silhouettes, I just feel like that would be something we can send to the public art committee, and if they want to do silhouettes, that's great. If they want to do something else, that's great. Well, just improve Main Street in the commercial districts east and west of downtown by improving the highway medians and adding public art. Yeah. And then the other thing was on theme 3. I was wondering if we could just rephrase it to say increase pedestrian connectivity throughout the city through code updates and infrastructure improvements. I just feel like it's a little more concise, and we already have some infrastructure improvements planned, like 17th Street and other things, so I feel like we might as well. I just am always afraid of people thinking that we're like, big news, everyone, we did paperwork. I want to show that we're also like doing things. And then I just was curious.
Second part, updates
and infrastructure.
More readable that way.
Yeah. And then on.
But it says this, yeah.
Yeah. Just since this is this thing that we put out.
Right.
Yeah. And then on theme 2, the first bullet point, I just was curious that I love all that. Is that all something we're going to get done in a fiscal year? Or should we make it a little more general? I mean, don't get me wrong, I would love for us to get that done in a fiscal year. I just don't want to put it on there if we're not sure.
Yeah, I mean, those, again, I was just trying to list stuff that was in there.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it doesn't seem like that hard, but just,
We could do like pedestrian gather space improvements on North 13th or something like that.
Yeah, just maybe think about a slightly different.
And,
Yeah.
take out some of the detail anyway.
Yeah. And then I guess just on the same thing on theme 4, the second bullet point. I wonder if we could just strike some of the specifics that not because I don't think we can do them, but just it's a very long sort of like just say modernize it or improve undeveloped streets through additional amenities.
Yeah. Period.
Yeah, some.
Councilor Crocker says, that's it, something.
I agree with that. Yeah. Yes, Councilor Crocker.
I'm sorry. I brought this up before, and I don't, increase pedestrian and bike connectivity. When Applegate turns to join Main Street, and you can go through that funky little place, there's no bike lane there for just a block. And one of the people that lives there pointed that out to me, and it's bugged me ever since. There's the sidewalk you can walk on for connectivity, but there's a spot. What are the bike riders supposed to do there? If they're trying to bike to the elementary school, do they just bike on the street or the sidewalk? There's no bike lane.
What about going
If you're turning off of me, going
eastbound?
east.
I'm going east. Yeah, I'm going east. And where Applegate turns into Main Street, right there at this corner, you can take and get back on Applegate. And right there, that first block has no bike lane. There's a bike lane before and a bike lane after, but it's not there.
Carry your bike.
Yeah, well, I don't think that's gonna happen.
Can we just put the little sharrows there?
I just put bike lane there is what we probably do.
I just don't know, because it narrows to just,
It's pretty.
you know, on that triangle piece.
It's probably what I need, but we can look at it.
Okay, yeah, I agree.
Citizen that lives on that corner pointed that out, and I just can't unsee it anymore.
Yeah. Okay, no, I appreciate that. Any other edits on this? I guess the only thing is, just on that note, under theme 3, I wonder, could we just put bike and for increased bike and pedestrian connectivity?
It does say that
Where?
in the second
On
one.
the second.
Oh, yes, sorry. I just moved that up to the top.
You could also just strike pedestrian from the first bit and just say increased connectivity throughout by adding bike,
Although,
whatever.
I think we're trying to emphasize, like, not just cars. Yeah.
That's true.
Okay, I would just ask if you've got edits or typos or things in the rest of the document, just email them over to me, and I'll bring this back to you in April to actually approve there, because I realize this is the first time you're seeing it like this, so go through it, and then in April, bring it back if we make any tweaks to it, and then I'll have a resolution to approve it, or a motion to approve it. That's a resolution. No, just a motion.
Okay. You don't need a motion right now?
No, I got direction.
Wonderful. Any other thoughts on that? Okay, now we have our 2 proclamations, starting with Resolution 2606 proclaiming Arbor Day. And as a reminder, this is something we pass this every year, partly because we love Arbor Day and we love trees, and also because it's a requirement for our Tree City USA status. But I'm sure we would do it even if it weren't.
Absolutely.
Any discussion on this? Then I move that we adopt Resolution 2606. Okay, it's been moved by Mayor McMorrin, seconded by Councilor Andrade to adopt Resolution 2606. We're going to do that after. So, would all those in favor please raise your hand and say aye? Aye. Resolution is adopted unanimously. I will read it just because it's written first person. So, okay, Resolution 2606, Arbor Day Proclamation. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas the city of Philomath has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation and desires to continue its tree planting practices. Now, therefore, I, Christopher McMorrin, Mayor of the City of Philomath, do hereby proclaim April 24th, 2026 as Arbor Day in the City of Philomath, and I urge all residents to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And further, I urge all residents to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. Passed on this 9th day of March. Um,
I, the Lord.
yeah. And I don't know if I should say this. I think we have our annual Arbor Day celebration planned for the 24th at 1:30. So keep it, Crystal's looking confused. Okay. So keep an eye out for that from Gary at Public Works season meeting.
Perfect.
Yeah, we'll be doing both. There'll still be a school, at Public
Yeah.
Works, but then we'll also be doing a citywide one at the library. Planting of the new tree to replace the elm that we lost there earlier this year.
Awesome. All right. Well, you thought that was fun. Just wait. Now we have Women's History Month proclamation. So March is Women's History Month, and this is the proclamation. Did this come from? Do you speak about it at all? Yeah.
We discussed the proclamation that we've approved in the past and revisited the suggestion that we had about including mothers in the in here, recognition of mothers as well.
135.
Yes, thank you. In the caregiving role type of clause, and we also updated the theme. And that's, I'm pretty sure that was all we changed. Do you remember anything else of note when you were?
No, it's just that was pretty much the discussion that was around those two.
Yeah, just trying to be more inclusive of the women in our community and making sure that they're recognized.
Okay. Sorry. Councilor Crocker has some thoughts.
Oh, yes,
Or
I
a
do.
particular
And
thought.
I was by then President Jimmy Carter. We didn't say then President Abraham Lincoln or then President George Washington. We just called them president. So I would like to take the then. Because that's weird to me.
I think because this is a resolution, do you want to make a motion for that?
Yes, I would
Okay.
motion that we take then out of the first line,
Yeah.
line 7.
Okay.
Strike.
Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved by Councilor Crocker, seconded by Councilor Andrade to strike the word then and the subsequent hyphen from line 7. All those in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
It's struck. All right. Is there further discussion, or were you done with your summary?
I was just trying to make sure we include all the way that, you know, women are, that women are, like how we, yeah, in the community and
So true.
inclusivity. Sorry, I said it better earlier, but then I
You're
bragged.
good. I get you. Is there any more discussion on Resolution 2607? Okay. Seeing none, do we need a motion to pass it? Okay. Is there a motion?
I make the motion written with the change on line 7.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay. It's been moved by Councilor Crocker, seconded by Councilor Andrade to adopt Resolution 2607 as amended. Would all those in favor please raise your hand and say aye?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Oh, I thought we were going to make a comment.
Uh,
I know that, I thought the comment was after the
Sorry,
motion.
okay.
Oh,
We
okay.
can, are you voting nay? And then do you want to talk
Yeah.
about, but just have you vote nay?
Okay, there we
And
go.
then I'll
Yeah.
do the vote. Okay, passes 4-1 and then, sorry.
The record.
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
also, I'm voting no on, that is, so. The recommendation last year, there was a consensus, so I won't make the recommendation again, but because I knew I'd be voting no, I just wanted to, for the record, the commentary on it. So I found what I wrote last year, so I'll read that. I support the celebration of women in history and their indispensable role in the world and in our community of Philomath. If the goal of the proclamation is to voice this support and celebration of women in history, I recommend that it focus on women and that presentations or discussions about gender expression and other gender ideologies be assigned to other proclamations or platforms. I spoke with my favorite woman in the world, my wife, for her feedback on the proposed proclamation, and she agrees with that sentiment. So for that reason, I'm voting on it.
Perfect. Thank you. And sorry I skipped that.
That's
earlier.
okay.
I think
I wanted to follow.
it just seemed like a quiet group, so I thought I'd move along. But all right, wonderful. Thank you very much. With that, do we have a volunteer who would like to read this? All right, Councilor Crocker.
Women's History Month proclamation. Whereas the first Women's History Week was proclaimed by President Jimmy Carter in 1980 and in subsequent years developed into Women's History Month by Congress in 1987, and whereas the theme for National Women's History Month in 2026 is Leading the Change, Women Shaping a Sustainable Future, to highlight women driving sustainability across environmental, economic, and social justice areas. And whereas this proclamation is an understanding of gender diversity that has existed throughout time and across cultures by creating an allyship of cultural understanding to all gender expansive people, including but not limited to cisgender, transgender, two-spirit gender, non-conforming queer, genderqueer, and any woman or girl identified. And whereas, despite the innumerable contributions women have made and continue to make, too little is taught or even known about the enormous impact women have on our collective national history. And whereas women from every part of society have been part of the building of Philomath, beginning with the indigenous people and continuing throughout history. And whereas women of Philomath have served our country proudly and with courage. And whereas women of Philomath have been leaders fighting for freedom, justice throughout history. And whereas women of Philomath have been and continue to be an economic, cultural, and social strength who work together to build a strong community. And whereas we recognize and honor women of Philomath in their roles as mothers, raising children, managing households, taking on caregiving roles, and working from home to strengthen our community in the past, present, and future. Whereas we recognize women of Philomath have had an important role throughout history, providing much of the unpaid labor and volunteer services to our community. And whereas women are making history every day and will continue to do so in ways that will change our community and our country for the better. And now, therefore, it be resolved, we, the City Council and Inclusivity Committee of the City of Philomath, hereby proclaim March 2026 to be Women's History Month. We thereby call on the people of our community to join us in celebrating the countless women who have fought tirelessly and courageously for equality, justice, opportunity in our communities and in our nation.
Yay. Can I note a Scribner's correction, just on line 37 to add, like semicolon and. Okay. Thank you very much, Councilor Crocker. With that, we'll move on to our reports, starting with council liaisons. I'm just going to take a quick moment and give a legislative update, because the Oregon legislature adjourned on Friday, and I thought it'd be good to go over a few bills that affect cities. And I talked with Chris about maybe having Ashley come in a little bit down the road and give a more official legal update, but I at least just wanted to give you the layman's update. The first thing I wanted to address, obviously, is I shared with you all via email that the legislature approved $2.65 million in bonding for our North 19th Street sewer improvements. So that's wonderful. That was an effort, as I said in the email. Big thanks to our staff for getting all the paperwork figured out. Chris for going up and testifying in Salem. And a huge thanks to Senator Anderson, who submitted that project as his #1 priority. And again, his district, just for the record, goes from Lincoln City to Philomath to Coos Bay. And he submitted Philomath as his #1 priority. So we appreciate that. And then also, of course, to Representative David Gomberg, who supported the ask in the House, and then to the legislators on the committee that approved it. And I shared an update with Chris, just the way that bonding works. They're not actually going to sell the bonds until like next spring. So we won't actually get that money until sort of next spring, early summer, depending on the timing of the bond sale. All the legislature did is just authorize the bond sale. But I guess this seems like a Mike thing to avoid having the debt on their books as long as possible. They authorize the bond sale now, and then they don't actually sell the bonds until the end of the fiscal year or near the end of the fiscal year.
Yeah.
So, so we won't actually see that money for like another year, but we will see it, which is wonderful.
They're gonna hold it, or are they gonna pass it through?
I don't know. We find out.
Same with the bill.
Well, I'm sure. Okay, and then there were a few other legislative updates related to funding. The first was Senate Bill 1585, which just barely passed at the end of session due to some politics. It had gotten held up for a while. And this bill adjusts the required match for small cities to receive grants from state agencies. So it's lowered the match quite a bit for cities under 20,000 in population. So that's good news for us. The other one is HB 4148, and this was the transient lodging tax flexibility. Right now, we have to have 70% of the money we receive from transient lodging taxes go towards tourism promotion, and 30% can be reserved for city general fund needs. The bill that passed changes that, so it's 50-50. So 50% can be retained for city general fund needs, and the remaining 50% still needs to be spent on tourism related activities. But there's a caveat that the city can use some of that remaining 50% for grants to sort of businesses related to that, which is what we often already do. But that's still good flexibility to have, especially as we consider 14th Street. And then the other updates were more related to government ethics. There was a work group over the interim that looked at some reforms to government ethics laws and the Government Ethics Commission. HB 4159 is a really simple bill. It passed. It just says that the governor must appoint one member on the Government Ethics Commission who has experience in local government. I think there was a feeling that the Government Ethics Commission was regulating local government without any idea what it was actually like. So there was just one line they added in that bill, and it passed. And then HB 4161, this was affectionately called the hot dog bill or the pizza bill. I think one of the LOC lobbyists called it the meatball bill. And this is now saying that even though we already adopted that compensation policy, this is explicitly stating that it is not an ethical violation for a public body to provide its governing board members with meals during meetings or merchandise no greater than $100 in value in a calendar year. So, the city can now provide, a cold slice of pizza and a mug, and without it raising ethical violations. So, that's just really, breaking news. And then the last one is a little more substantive. It's HB 4177, which is a update / clarification on public meetings law. And the first thing it does is it restates the serial meeting prohibition, because you may recall state law never actually prohibited serial meetings. That was the Government Ethics Commission sort of interpreting state law to say that it included serial meetings. So now the legislature has just expressly said serial meetings are prohibited, but they've also added some exceptions. And this is, I think, the good news for cities and other governing boards, it says that it expressly does not include communications solely for like logistical purposes. So if we're scheduling, if we are just trying to figure out kind of what's going on, that is expressly not a violation of public meetings law. If we are simply gathering information or sharing information, that is not a violation of public meetings law. If you make statements to the press or you make statements to the public or a constituent, aka if you like post on social media, that is not a violation of public meetings law. And I feel like I'm forgetting one other thing in there, but it I think is good. It faced some opposition from the press and journalism organizations who were afraid that it would mean that now all of a sudden we would make all of our decisions in secret, which is expressly prohibited in the bill. The bill says that it cannot be deliberation towards a decision. It can just be like, if we're talking about parking minimums at the next meeting, I can send you a report on parking minimums ahead of the meeting. Or if a constituent emails me, I can forward it to all of you, and that's not a problem. But they were concerned about it. Legislators didn't seem that concerned about it. It passed, but I think they just committed to closely monitoring it. And if it feels like all of a sudden we start making all of our decisions in secret, they may come back and tweak that. But yeah, those are, I think, the main sort of city-related bills. So I'll be quiet now. Any other liaison reports?
Yes. Philomath Community Services, their big push this month is the food drive March on Hunger. And we need some more volunteers this Saturday at 9 o'clock right here in this room, to then take a city map and go pick up donations. If you're available, please come. I know you guys donate enough time already because you're on this, but if you would like to participate, please come, because we were just barely had enough volunteers to cover everything last week when we were just hanging the door hangers, but with the carrying of food, that's going to be a little more labor need. So that'd be great. The fire department's putting up a levy for funding, and what else are they doing? They're much like us. They're in negotiations and doing some of that, and I learned about that today.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Any other updates? Yeah, Councilor Dryden.
Well, I'll just note that the Hope Advisory Board meets quarterly now, so there's no update there. And the Benton County Historical Society meets every other month, so no update there yet. But I realized I promised I was going to send the update to Councilor Crocker for the remodel plans that they have at the Philomath Museum. I haven't yet, so I can forward that to staff and they can distribute, just so we have an idea. And then, but with the Inclusivity Committee, I wanted to give an update about, at our last meeting, we established a community agreements document that has some, like 4 like general principles, and then there were these examples of like practices that like support those things underneath them. But yeah, so we did that to just kind of have an agreement of how we work together, to make sure that like as we get more people into participating in the committee, that you know, we want to make people feel welcome and that they're not going to be shamed if they say something incorrectly, or like, you know, something that is harmful, I guess is what I mean. And then also just recognizing that everyone's learning and trying to make it more inviting to the community. And those rules help kind of build that relationship of understanding and while working together. We're going to review the top 10 strategic plan priorities, and we'll have some feedback on ways that we may have feedback on how to make certain things more inclusive. And then I just wanted to also say that we're planning to discuss our goals. We talked about it a little bit more at our last meeting, just kind of, we're going to continue spotlighting observances of different lived experiences and identities that shape us, that are unique, and also things that bring us together and our commonalities to like all humans, you know. But we also want to discuss other things outside of that calendar structure that we have. And so we'll talk about that some more. And we'll bring those ideas to council for approval/feedback. But in the meantime, if there's any ideas that you have that you would like the committee to consider, or that the council wants to send to the committee, let me know. If it's an individual thing, let me know, or send an email to Chris or something. And if it's a council thing, I think that'll come at a later, like, strategic plan discussion or something. I don't know. Sorry.
Quick timeout. Can we have consensus to continue the meeting until 9:40? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I was really nervous. No, it was mostly just that, like, so if anyone has any ideas of like, hey, you know, it'd be nice if someone could look into this, or, you know, there's this one, I don't know, words are hard right now. The brain's shutting down.
That sounds good.
So, yeah. We'll get more updates soon.
Okay,
Let me know if there's anything you want us to discuss. That's the main thing.
perfect. Thank you. Appreciate that. Anything else? There's no pressure.
I wasn't able to go to my last PYAC board meeting, but I'm always just reminded what a vibrant program that is in Philomath. My daughter went through basketball for the first year, and to kind of see her growth through that, to be so timid, but then to get into it and to enjoy it. And so, yeah, PYAC is an awesome organization for us, for sure.
Wonderful. But I think I'll just say, and this might be, I don't know if this is going to, but Chris and I did go to the Philomath 2050, the first sort of stakeholder meeting, which was good. It was mostly just sort of a setting the stage, background, getting sort of an idea of the different organizations and then history of Philomath, and now we'll be moving into the other stages that you can see on this paper. So it's exciting. It's actually happening.
We've got 12 different organizations represented.
Yeah.
So I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah. Chris, anything you want to highlight in your management report?
I was going to touch on that for sure. The other thing is that the water treatment plant did go out for bid last Wednesday. It's expected to close on the 31st of this month. And so when we come to you in April, hopefully, we'll have a recommendation to get a contract with somebody. So with that, again, for April, we'll come utility rate discussion. We'll be looking at Landmark Drive Local Improvement District and whatever other fun stuff we can throw at you. So no rest for the weary. Chelsea, did you want to touch on any of the park stuff or?
Well, I will say the public art, just so you're all aware, we did choose to open that back up for a second round. We had some website issues with our application process. We think that we're trying to get those worked out. We also had some issues with our band applications for music and park, but we hope to bring some art recommendations for those temporary art pieces to the April 13th council meeting. So I did want to note that. And then The city park exercise equipment, I think we talked about this last year, but I, for some reason, have been asked about this probably 4 times in the last week. People are thinking about the outdoor exercise equipment. We are waiting for the engineers for the adjacent
New bridges.
new bridge project to let us know that our project's not going to overlap or get in the way of that. But just last week, Gary Black was looking at the layout plan and he was gonna go out there and see if he can kind of move it along. So if anyone asks you, we're still working on it.
Still on track for this summer.
Yeah, unless they come up with something and say it's absolutely going to be in the way, but we don't foresee that.
Preliminarily, it's 5, but we want to see it on paper. And then Mike sent the updated budget calendar out. So again, make sure that you've got those dates clear. It's really important for the council to be there. So look at your calendar, get those dates on your Wednesdays. And yeah, get through the budget process.
What day does it start?
I don't remember.
Mike, when does it start?
What's that?
When is the first budget committee meeting?
I don't remember.
It's in your.
Well,
Yeah.
Crystal will be helping out.
Oh, bless you, Crystal.
I thought maybe it was March. I thought, uh-oh.
Oh, it's been pushed out about 2 weeks.
I should never have a rocking chair again because I can sit rock it.
Oh, yeah.
So people have it on their phone.
Okay, any other questions about management report or financial reports? I appreciate all the time that goes into these. Thank you very much. And I, as Chris knows, poor Chris, every time I come into his office or I call him on the phone, he already knows that I'm gonna ask him if the water treatment plant RFP went out yet. And he was finally able to tell me yes last week. And that was great for both of us. So, yeah. So thank you for getting that out. Any final thoughts? Okay, well, great work, team. We got through everything on our agenda, so I don't think we'll be meeting in at the end of this month.
Pretty great.
Yeah. We have a housing economic development committee meeting tomorrow. I don't know if there's other committee meetings coming up.
Oh, I'm on that meeting.
Okay. Yeah, and then we'll just try to get a finance and meeting on the.
Public Works Committee will be meeting pretty soon on the CIP.
Okay.
Staff's working on that, so that'll go out to Public Works Committee.
Inclusivity at the end of the meeting.
End of
Or the
the
end of the month.
fourth Tuesday, 5:30.
I'll be Orlando, of course. You can kick me off the team. I would certainly understand. It's like 3 months.
I think I do just one last thing, just something to heads up, because I'm gonna be, this Thursday, we're doing our Home Community Network Group, which is an all organization town meet for lunch. This year, I've purchased a subscription to a website. It's called, what is it? In my?
What are you saying?
Be my legacy.
Okay.
What's the first word?
See?
C. I don't know if that's right. It's something about legacy, when I worked with legacy. He's gonna look it up. Anyway, it's a platform that the entire community can use. And we're gonna use it from the city for registering our volunteers, volunteer signups. It's essentially a website, think of like a platform, but it's a website that Philomath residents or whoever could go. And on there, there'll be different campaigns of different opportunities to do service projects, events that are coming up, fundraisers, sponsors for Music in the Park, sponsor whatever, but it's not limited to just city, it's for the community. So PYC could put their stuff on there, their Frolic could put stuff on there. Even if they have it on their own website, they could duplicate it, put it there. So anybody who's going there like, oh, I want to volunteer for Music in the Park. And they go there and they're like, oh, I didn't know there was a volunteer opportunity at the food bank. Oh, I didn't know that there was an opportunity that my business could sponsor or whatever. It's all going to be in that one platform. You can do it for event registrations. If you're having a big event, free tickets, charge tickets as well. Anyway, it's a great platform. It's a flat fee for the year, and we can have as many users in the city use it as want to. So I'm going to be pitching that to the Film Community Networking Group, which is a lot of those organizations, Thursday. We're getting it set up. It's going to take a little bit to get it all rolled out, but I'll be reporting back on that. It's just a new community asset that we're kind of bringing to the table for everybody. So
The other
again,
thing
we
is
were kind of using
mapping.
it for our own. Oh yeah, I didn't mention that.
Talking about the mapping.
Yeah, the mapping's cool feature. It's like this company started by a platform where they would sell park benches in memorial of somebody who had died, passed away. And they would buy a bench, and on the bench, they put this really cool QR code. And when you're sitting on the bench, you're like, in memory of John Smith. You're like, who's John Smith? Well, you scan the QR code and it takes you to the website on your phone, and the families of John Smith can put all kinds of information about there, who he was, pictures, their favorite recipe. I mean, all that stuff can be in there, and the families can input all that information. So they do benches, they do trees now. We're also looking to use it with our art, so our
Heritage
public art.
trees, public art.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. So
And
it's
they'll be
got a
mapped.
great
Cool map.
GIS map where it'll show the map of the city. And you say like, show me all the benches, the memorial benches, and it'll show you where they are. Show me all the heritage trees in the city. There they are. Show me all the public art displays. There they are, right? So the mapping feature is kind of on top, and I think by making it easier for people to like purchase benches, purchase trees, do all that stuff, we'll probably have more of them then. So that means we purchase fewer benches and fewer trees and all that, right? We'll have more kind of memorial, make it easier for people. So it's a cool technology, a great company. They're one of these kind of smaller startup companies that's like kind of hungry for business and just looking to grow. And so they're like, yeah, whatever great ideas you have, bring it to us and we'll like incorporate them, right? So it's like pretty cool platform. So anyway, it's a nice little added benefit. And we were going to use it for city stuff anyway.
Sure.
The fact we can output for our community partners. You're talking about PYC. I mean, Eddie, I've been like, are you guys still doing paper registrations and volunteers and coach volunteer forms? It's like, well, yeah, we can't afford a $6,000 a year platform. I'm like, okay, we're going to talk. So that might be a big help for them.
That's awesome.
Anyway, I'll end on that. Good
Okay,
stuff.
thank you very much. We're at the end of our time, so I will adjourn this meeting and we will see you all in April. Thank you very much.
Woohoo.